everybody, and welcome back to my Untitled Rant series because that's all I can get. I don't come up with titles. Today I'm going to be talking about American high-speed rail. A very divisive topic indeed, so divisive in fact that my friend who takes a debate class had to do a debate on it, if it was good or not. My opinion, nah. No, I love trains, if you can't tell. But American high-speed rail just ain't it. Like, if you compare American high-speed rail to, like, I don't know, literally any other country with competent high-speed rail, America's just, calling American, high-speed rail, like, high-speed rail is being generous. It is slow. Slow. It's drinking, sorry. Yeah. Northeast Corridor, which it's very, very outdated. I don't think anyone will deny that. It's a old line. It was built back in the time of before GG1s and such. And that was a very long time ago. Sorry, let me just fix my settings for my game. See what makes me different from other commentary YouTubers. Number one, I'm not really a commentary YouTuber. Number two, I play the games real time because I am fun like that. Yeah, because I'm fun like that. Anyways, yeah, but yes, American High Speed Rail. It's a bit of a, I don't swear on my channel. It's a crapshoot. That's what it is. It's like Amtrak is. I've had many issues with Amtrak. Like, sure, it probably it's better than not having any passenger rail, sure, but it's not the best run company ever. I don't even know if it's the company's fault. It's just American passenger rail has been dead for such a long time. I don't know if there's any saving it, and I think Amtrak's actually done a somewhat admirable job of it. Actually thinking about it, I told my friend, this Northeast Corridor being sold to Amtrak is, Amtrak was partially created because of one of the biggest screw-ups in American history, Penn Central. Now, Penn Central, it was hard to think of a good thing about them. Their size, I guess, but even then, it wasn't, today's standards was not that big. Let's see, it was a very big, bankruptcy at the time, sure, but nowadays, it's still big. It's a really big bankruptcy. It was just such a bungled mess of the destruction. Like, you can't screw something up that. It was never gonna work. Because you have, basically what you're doing is, imagine if you took United States, US and Russia, right? Then tried to merge them into one country. That's basically what was happening here. Only, worse, because imagine if US and Russia were on top of each other. Because they basically shared many of the same rails. They they not the same rails, but they shared many of the same areas served. Oh shoot, and they overlapped a lot. And I'm sure many of you, there's much better videos on this this subject than mine. But they was doomed to fail because people they didn't quite understand how. Well, it's a desperate merger, sure, because the Pennsylvania and the New York Central are not doing too hot, which is fair. And, when times get desperate, you go desperate. But I don't even know how the Interstate Commission allowed that to go past, and not let, the Santa Fe and the, Southern Pacific thing go past. Because, or maybe they learned something. That's also a possibility, because they may learn, wait a second, after this bungled mess, we shouldn't let it happen again. Even though I think the Santa Fe Southern Pacific one would have been slightly less terrible. But, whatever. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm biased. And my two favorite railroads are the Santa Fe and the Southern Pacific. Sure. Shoot. I didn't swear there. Man just crashed into me, man. Nah, man, you ran into my side. Uncool, man. Anyways, like, what was I on about? Ah, yes. Sorry, I do this in real time. Um, Downslide. Okay, anyways, what I was talking about was Penn Central, yes. Oh, yeah, I was talking about ATSF. Yes. Anyways, I should probably change subjects because I'm getting off topic here. Anyways, American High-Speed Rail. It's not elect American Electric railroads are kind of busted to start out with because they don't work. I mean, for the longest time, American electric rails were purely for practicality. Like, put it this way: the Milwaukee Road did not did not did not electrify their Western Addition or whatever the hell they called it because they cared about the environment. They did it because electric locomotives gave them more attractive effort, or that kind of stuff. You need to know that by the time, because the second diesels became comparable to electric locomotives, outwent the electric locomotives. I think that's the real issue with the U.S. is that U.S. railroads or U.S. electric railroads, that it's all about practicality. Like they don't really care about. Most of them don't care about electricity, about the environment as much. And like the other thing is that I'm sure like the US is too big for this kind of thing because it's so big that to like electrify, like if you're in Japan, sure, everything's perfectly easy to electrify because it's such a small country. And the railroads are so heavily used that electrifying it makes perfect sense because, you get better speed with electric trains and all that. But in America, it's just so big that electrification makes no sense because it's not practical and so on. That really feeds into high speed trains because basically for a high speed train you need a group of somewhat close together, highly urban areas. Basically, I mean that's what Japan is basically, hence why it works. And like put this way, the high speed rail doesn't work if you're trying to connect San Francisco and Chicago, because that is like first of all too expensive, and number two not going to be very profitable. Um, you know, I'm sure. I mean, I don't know how to explain that, but it wouldn't be very profitable or fun. Or not that you'd want to build that either. But I think I put this: the bigger issue American has rails that America isn't built for. America isn't built for railroads. And I don't say in passenger railroads, I mean specifically, because America's definitely built for freight railroads, I will say. Because everything America's built, it's very spread out. And it's very spread out. And that's perfect. And like with good highways, but that's actually, but it's fine for like freight trains, because this way, trucks are not going to replace freight trains. Because what freight trains enable is something like that trucks can't do, which is like this way. When you go on the freeway, do you see a truck? Do you see like a truck with modal containers on them? No. You see them on trains because they are so much more practical for this kind of thing. But passenger trains, there's literally nothing that on a passenger train that you can't do better than on an airplane or a car. Because I mean, besides comfort, there's nowhere in America, almost nowhere in America, with a few exceptions, of course, but nowhere in America where you can get there faster on a train. I mean, farther than 100 miles out. Now, of course, there's some technical, like in Los Angeles, trains are probably technically faster because the traffic is still horrendous. But theoretically, a car, if the traffic was normal, would be faster. I mean, that's kind of the appeal of trains in urban areas. Which, yeah, well, if only, I'm gonna make a video on Caltrain in the future because Caltrain is actually something I do like. Aside from the time I went in and they sort of puked in the stairs, that was not so nice. But besides that experience that I had, I mean, I think Caltrain is quite the well-run business, and it's a former SP, so that's nice. But yeah, high-speed rail. Now, there's that California high-speed rail thing that's supposed to go like the Salesforce, whatever the hell. Yeah, I don't know if that's happening. It's more of a fever dream to start out with because I mean I'd love it could work. If it could work, yes, I would try to make my parents take me. But I don't know if there's the public. Let's see, the public want for it. Like in Japan, I go back to Japan because it's a perfect example of this. Oh no, I'm supposed to go back here. I go back to Japan because Japan's a perfect example of this. American culture is a car culture. Now, I'm not saying Japan doesn't have a car culture. It literally is home to it's home to many of the biggest brands in the goddamn world. It's home to Honda, Toyota, Mazda, Nissan. Those are massive brands, and I am personally a bit of a bias towards Japanese cars. Shoot. Um, but Japan basically nerfed the car so bad. Japan is the home one of the homes of the automobile, nerfed their own cars to help trains out. And basically what that allowed them to do is, excuse me, I just like drinking. But basically what that allowed them to do is allowed them to keep the trains going despite the fact of cars. Basically the US did the exact opposite. Um there I mean they basically killed off the railroads which they had to save through Conrail, which actually I think Conrail was quite successful as it did its job very well. But and Amtrak, which is a whole kettle of fish. Now Amtrak only owns like one significant stretch of rail, and that is the Northeast Corridor. Now the Northeast Corridor that's like the perfect. That's why one of the few places in America where high-speed rail is very practical because you have many metropolitan centers close to each other. And sure, it works. And that's why they set it up. But the issue is not the route. The issue is the track. Now, like a lot, I watch Amtrak Guy 365. And every time he mentions any electric locomotive, it's always like, yeah, to fit the antiquated clearances on the Northeast Corridor. The Northeast Corridor is antiquated. Even to this day, there's many bridges and tunnels that, sure fit like GG1s or, like just absolute antiques like that, but they don't work for modern day. Like there's so many speed limits that you have to impose because I mean, put it this way, you should not have GP40TCs driving on your high-speed rail lines. I mean, that's definitely not a good sign. And the Cell Express, it isn't that fast, man. Like in Japan, like they got I'm sure a lot of like the EMU train sets could go faster than the GP4 than the Cellas if they wanted. In Japan, they would call that um, in Japan they would call that like well, I would call that garbage. because it's not worth anything. You can't. I dare you to say to my face that you cannot. Oh God, this car is something else. Anyways, it's hard to say that or cars are just more practical a lot of the time in the United States. I mean, I love trains so much, but they just aren't practical in many situations. And one of the situations is like, long distance travel. Amtrak is more of a, well, number one, Amtrak is so expensive. But number two, it's more of a novelty than it is an actual practical form of transportation. Shoot. How bad did I screw up my front? Barely at all. Wow, that thing is a piece of cake. Anyways, God, this thing has no brakes. Yeah, but the U.S. Um, yeah, Amtrak is their long distance routes are honestly more novelty than anything else. Like anything you can do on long distance routes, you can probably do faster driving or flying. Maybe not as comfortable or as quick in either, but you can usually get there faster. And sure, that's not usually Amtrak's fault, because they get stuck on freight railroads and all that. But it's a bit like as everything else moves forward, Amtrak is still in the past and isn't getting any faster. Because sure, back in the 1940s, sure, all the speed of the train would probably be just fine. Oh shit, I missed the off ramp. Hop the curb. It would probably be just fine. Nowadays, it's not fast enough because the US has moved on and the world has moved on. But even as Japan, where even if you took away the tolls, Japan's rail system is still super practical because basically the trains are still running at decent speed. Like imagine the Northeast Corridor regular trains, but that's all the long distance trains. That's Japan for you. The only trains that go slowly are like the regionals, but like as regional trains, not that many people care. Like you'd rather them go slowly, but it's just fundamental issue to the United States rail system. It's not well built. It's not well taken care of. Well, I'm sure it's well taken care of. It's just basically what they need to do is someone needs to dump a lot of money into Amtrak and then have them fix up the Northeast Corridor to make an actual high-speed line. Because right now it's by Japanese standards just a regular train line. You know, it doesn't have the like a high-speed train line. What it should do is be built for the high-speed trains, be able to accommodate them at near top speed or max operating speed at all times, with and fit the operating conditions that you need, be safe and all that. The Northeast Corridor is none of those. I mean, sure, you can't run at full speed the whole way. You can't, let's see, what is the word I was looking for? Well, what were the other ones? You can't, well, I'm sure you guys understand what I mean. This doesn't work as what's supposed to be. Water is amazing. Um, you know, I'm sure all of you understand what I'm talking about, but as a train culture here, it's not like if you ever seen Japan, there's a little kids just love the railroads because They show up to the train station and watch Dr. Yellow and all that. They don't do that in America, do they? They just see trains as like an outdated, well, unless you're like a toddler, they see them as a toddler thing, or for old people. They don't see it as like a serious mode of transportation a lot of the time. And sure, some people do obviously rely on them, like to get to work and stuff. They aren't as essential to culture as like the car. The American car culture is something else. Believe me, I love cars. I don't love cars. I like cars a lot. Not more than trains, obviously, but I do like cars. Hence why I'm playing this game right now. Like I love everything transportation generally. Boats, cars, planes, trains, a whole lot. But trains just happen to be the one I connect with most. But I mean, I say, but America just isn't made for trains, and ever since the 1950s, the U.S. government has basically screwed over railroad companies, which built it. I mean, the Interstate Highways Act basically killed any chance of well, basically killed the train because they basically allowed the car to drive at high speeds for long periods of time, basically nullifying any advantage the train might have had in time. Oh god, crazy drivers, Jesus. What the hell? What the hell, man? But any advantage the train might have once had was completely nullified by the Interstate Highways Act. Basically made it so America could all connect itself by road. And sure, it didn't. The U.S. basically took the opposite um, way of countries like the Britain and Japan. And basically, they didn't try to save the railroads; they tried to kill them. I'm not saying they actually well, I am. The U.S. basically killed the railroads, and it's sad because the railroads were what built it, and the railroads are, in the end, part of the American spirit. Sure, they have their issues, but all things have their ethical issues. And when I hear about trains in history class, I am more than happy to tell people about them. Sure, it makes people think I'm a bit weird, but that I think they should because I love myself a train, and I am not going to shy away from that fact because I'm proud of it. I'm a train fan. It's just what I am, or a rail fan, whatever we want to go by now. It's something not a lot of people understand about people like us, that we enjoy things other people don't. And I've had many people who are like, I don't understand why you sit around and wait for trains to come by, you know, all that. But I don't think they quite understand how special trains are to people. And trains are, for many of us, it's a hobby. It's in the same vein as it's the same way how do I put this? Well, for a lot of trains fans, it's a bit like, can't think of a good metaphor. But hmm, it's like it's it's like jumping off an airplane for adrenaline junkies. It basically it is part of us. It is not something that you can. It's not like a passing trend. People who like trains, like past like the age of like 5, I feel are generally it's a life. Oh, you idiot! You idiot! You ruined my body work. But but it's a lifelong passion, and the U.S. just as much as I love it, the freight railroads are great, but the U.S. just can't do it. It just doesn't work. Yeah, like high-speed railroads are just not practical in the U.S. Especially in most places. Sure, they're practical. I feel like the Northeast Corridor is an exception to the rule because they are. Well, I think they're quite likely to do it. But I think that Northeast Corridor is an exception to the rule rather than the rule itself, because is the Northeast Corridor is a very special exception and occasion because how many places in the U.S. are there somewhere that you could replicate the Northeast Corridor? I don't think you can name one because it doesn't exist. The U.S. is just so spread out. It doesn't that the railroad that there's no way that you can replicate what the Northeast Corridor provides and its ability to make high-speed rail. So, in my opinion, high-speed rail only works in the Northeast Corridor. And like anywhere else, high-speed rail is just a bit useless, in my opinion. There's just not much you can do with it because, oh Jesus, because high-speed rail outside the Northeast Corridor is impractical. It is. Like sure, there's some other places in the U.S. that you can connect point to point. For example, San Francisco to Los Angeles. But that's not. But that's still only point to point. That's not like in the Northeast Corridor where you get like I don't know how many is it like 5 major cities on the line that are relatively close together. It doesn't exist anywhere else in the U.S. because you know how it works. So I think what we should be doing instead of expecting it, we should just accept that high-speed rail doesn't work in the U.S. This has been me. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a nice day. Please like and subscribe. Thanks.